What is up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with Nvidia, Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have Nvidia's earnings, which is going to shake the markets, not to mention what the charts are suggesting. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, in just about 11 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. So as far as Nvidia goes, we're doing a very, very good job at holding up. But just know this, the whole market started off with a bit of a rug pull in the morning. The market came down because of tensions involving Russia and Ukraine. A lot of things happened overnight. Now there's a lot of threats of attacks back and forth, but it wasn't really enough to keep the market down because ultimately what happened was Nvidia got bought back up. We got a small dip and then we just continued to squeeze, and we saw a lot of buyers step in as we're approaching Nvidia's earnings. Nvidia was up almost 5% for the day, and this is what helped the market recover. And you guys have to remember this, we have earnings for Nvidia tomorrow, so it's going to have a big effect on many different sectors in the market. It does not just affect Nvidia, it does not just affect semiconductors, but it's also going to be affecting stocks like Tesla, stocks like Microsoft, stocks like Meta, and then big tech is going to be impacted alongside our indices, our ETFs, and many other stocks. So the whole market is going to be looking for a ripple effect after Nvidia's earnings. Make sure you guys are ready for this. Make sure you guys are prepared just to be safe. That's why I believe it's very important for me to talk about Nvidia's earnings, how things are looking, and I'll break down what could end up happening to the share price. Let me just say this, the market dipped in the morning and it got bought back up thanks to Nvidia. That's what led the market up. And I still think the market may continue to push tomorrow, most likely approaching Nvidia's earnings, and we'll see what happens from there. I'll talk more about the charts though in just a couple of minutes. So going back to Nvidia, what's happening with them? What's going on so far? Nvidia is going to be reporting its third quarter earnings after market close tomorrow. So the market's going to have a full day of trading, and after it closes, we have Nvidia's earnings. Now, we're going to be listening to what they say about the demand for their Blackwell GPU chip because there's been a lot of speculation about the fact that the chip is overheating. One thing that's worth mentioning is that's what like mainstream reports were saying. Nvidia has not really commented on that, so we're going to have to wait and see what they end up saying about that. That's going to be very important because if they are truly overheating, it's going to lead to delays in their sales affecting their servers. If not, if it's just a mainstream report that wasn't entirely true and Nvidia kind of like negates that, that's going to once again be very bullish. So we'll have to see what Nvidia says about that. For the most part, though, most analysts are very bullish. They are expecting strong demand for Nvidia's GPUs and significant revenue growth. Looking at the last earnings, they saw very, very nice beats on revenue and EPS estimates, and we saw a very, very nice looking move. However, the share price did drop last time because their guidance wasn't as strong as what people were expecting. So keep that in mind. That's what happened the last time they announced earnings. So we'll have to see what happens with guidance, at least from this point on. So if I go down here, I think it talks about Goldman Sachs projections. So Goldman Sachs has come out. They said that they're expecting very strong demand for Nvidia, and they said that they're hyper focused on Nvidia's guidance for the fourth quarter. That's going to be very important. Very important. We're basically expecting them to give us a revenue of about $34.3 billion for the third quarter, and with EPS being adjusted per share at about 79 cents. Now, that is once again not bad. That's actually a little bit above what the most consensus estimates happen to be, but Nvidia is known for beating on these almost the majority of the time. Now, one thing worth mentioning is that Goldman Sachs has a $150 price target on Nvidia, which we could reach tomorrow if this run continues. So overall, that is very, very bullish. They're also expecting some very, very high demand for their Hopper-based GPUs, the H100, particularly the H200, and the other ones out there that are connected to the networking products. So I think that's going to be good. Other people like Wedbush are saying they're expecting another drop the mic report. We'll see how that goes for them. But here's my view, guys. The majority of analysts are saying the same thing. They're expecting strong earnings from Nvidia, which I think we're going to get. The only question is, what do they tell us about their chips? Is there going to be a slowdown in demand if there are disruptions or not? Was the media just not telling the truth? We'll have to find out about that. And then the main thing is going to be guidance. What guidance do they give us for Q4? I think that's kind of a big effect on the share price. If Q4 guidance is strong and we continue to see Jensen Huang hype up investors, the share price could go bananas and try to break all-time highs. And this could help the stock market recover very, very nicely and start a squeeze for the end of the year. So am I going to promise that? I can't say that, guys. We don't know for sure because the last time Nvidia announced earnings, it did dip a bit because they beat on EPS and revenue, but they missed on guidance. Guidance was not as strong. But for this, from this point on, for Q4, if we get strong guidance, it could be the opposite. So it all depends on what they end up announcing. Just know this: as far as the market goes today, Nvidia led tech up, and it's mainly just tech and then some consumer durables that held up. Finance was a little bit red, and most stocks were kind of flat, but we did see the S&P 500, the Nasdaq try to push higher despite some negative news that came out involving geopolitics. So the market was more green than red in terms of the bigger tickers running, but in terms of the number, the pure number of tickers, if you account for small caps, it's a very mixed market, some green, some red here and there. For tomorrow is going to be November 20th, 2024. There's not really much data coming out. It's all very, very minor crude data, but we have the bill auctions and bond auctions at 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. For earnings, don't forget tomorrow morning we have NEO, Target, TJ Maxx, and Wix all announcing earnings in the morning. And once again, after market close, we have the big one. Nvidia is going to be announcing their earnings, so we're going to be expecting a very, very big move. So we'll see if they address the claims about what happened with their chips and how it affects their servers. We'll see how that ends up going for them, and we'll see what happens with their demand in terms of guidance and factors like that. So get ready for Nvidia's earnings tomorrow. It's going to be causing a very, very big move. Today, we got Walmart and Lowe's announcing earnings. I already went over this in my morning video, but I'm just going to go over this real quick. Just so you guys know, Walmart actually had pretty good earnings. They beat on EPS with 58 cents adjusted, and revenue was a beat at 170 billion, which is above expectations. Very strong revenue growth from them. And then their guidance was pretty strong because just seeing a lot of different sectors growing outside of groceries. That's good news for Walmart. That's why the share price held up quite decently. It ended up kind of flat throughout the day, but it did start pushing because of that good news. Lowe's is down, though. It sold off after earnings came out because they beat on EPS and revenue. The EPS was at $2.89 adjusted. Revenue was at $20 billion. They beat on everything, but then their overall guidance was not as strong, so that's why the share price went down. Anyways, that's enough about all this news about the markets. Let's now just focus on the charts. What do I see for Nvidia? What do I think is going to happen for the markets? So I want to talk about Nvidia first, and I'll talk about SPY, the QQQ, and the others. We look very bullish on the daily time frame as there's a lot of buyers stepping in. Let's see if Nvidia could try to hold above 147. If that's the case, we could be approaching 148. The 150, the all-time high, is our next target. I see a lot of potential in Nvidia to do that. If we reject and start tipping lower, the main support is going to be around this 145 area. If we lose that, I'm going to be looking for a move back down towards 143. I don't expect that, though. I think that because earnings is coming out, most likely Nvidia will try to push higher. The daily looks very strong, so does the share price right now. So the odds are favoring us trying to revisit the 150 area after getting a bit of a dip. So we got this big dip on Nvidia. Now we're making a V-shaped recovery. This imbalance should favor us pushing closer to 115. This could push the market higher. In fact, we could even break all-time highs, so we'll just have to see how it goes. Now, I think the most likely possibility is we push approaching earnings, but I am not a fortune teller, so I don't know what's going to happen after earnings come out. So tomorrow, okay, let me just go back here. Tomorrow when the market's open, Nvidia should be pushing. The market will most likely follow it. But then after close, when Nvidia announces earnings, I'm not sure if the market gets a rug pull or if we continue to squeeze, as it depends on what Nvidia ends up announcing. So I hope that's as clear as possible. As of right now, we do look more bullish. For SPY, we got a nice bullish divergence, double bottom like structure, and we're looking bullish on the 4 hour. As long as we don't lose 589, if we were to lose that, we'd be looking for 586 all over again. As long as that does not happen, we're favoring upside, and this starts favoring the balance fill for that 593 target. That also correlates with our gap fill to about 593, or maybe even higher levels closer to all-time highs if Nvidia squeezes us. So if tomorrow comes and we do push higher, as long as we hold above 590, the chart is favoring 593 plus for a bit of a push tomorrow, approaching Nvidia's earnings. Now, if Nvidia does really well, we could be going back to all-time highs on SPY. And if Nvidia does poorly, we could be looking for a big rejection, kind of like a pump and then a dump at a lower high. For now, just focus on the pump that's most likely coming. We're going to most likely pump a bit approaching Nvidia's earnings, and whether or not we continue the pump depends on if Nvidia does well or not. But do expect some upside approaching earnings, and we'll see how it goes. ES looks more bullish. We have an imbalance to fill in this gap all the way up here on the daily, taking us up to about 59.80. There's a good chance we try to hold this as we're getting bought back up and defending our 20 EMA. As long as we don't lose 59.15, we are favoring upside as the most likely possibility, and this could take the share price all the way up towards that gap fill, towards the 59.80 area for more upside. That's the most likely possibility, in my personal opinion. For the big one, the QQQ, I know a lot of people are interested in this one. This has a huge gap to fill. So it's possible if Nvidia squeezes tomorrow, approaching Nvidia's earnings, as long as this is above 503, this chart is favoring it wants to fill this gap and make its way up towards 508. And for bearish, when we lose 500, we're looking for a dip back down towards 497. Overall, it looks more bullish, and we could be filling this gap back up for 508. So I think the odds are favoring the upside. I also want to call out that the weekly is looking a little bit more promising as we try to fill these imbalances. And also, when you look at, the daily looks pretty good. The 4 hour is also looking pretty good on the QQQ. If you look at the 4 hour, we're about to get a bullish cross on the PPO. This is suggesting we're going to most likely get a push for 505, and potentially that gap fill for 507 plus tomorrow as the most likely possibility. As long as we don't lose 500 to dip back down to 495, this chart's favoring upside. Most likely we go back up to 505, then 507 for tomorrow. That's what I think is most likely going to come. I did predict that this would likely bounce. Same thing with the market, and that was correct in my video from yesterday. So I think the chart is favoring more upside. Now, let me also say this. We could push approaching Nvidia's earnings, but I'm not sure what's going to happen afterwards. Do we get some kind of rug pull? Does something happen? I don't know, guys. It all depends on what they end up announcing. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying we're going to last forever in these higher levels. We should push approaching Nvidia's earnings, and we'll see what happens after that. NQ looks bullish right now as long as you don't lose 20,737. I think the chart is favoring 20,810. And if that breaks, we're going all the way up towards 20,875. So I think the chart looks more bullish. There's a nice green bar here, and we are favoring upside to get closer to 20,900. So far, we are favoring the upwards direction as the most likely possibility. For Bitcoin, I do anticipate it could it already touched our 20 EMA at 91,000, but just know this: we love to touch the green line, the 20 EMA, then bounce, touch it, then bounce, touch it, then bounce, touch it, then bounce. So there might be a bounce attempt tomorrow to get back up to 94,000 as Bitcoin remains more bullish. Overall, it's doing a good job at holding up. As long as you don't lose 91,000, I think we favor upside, and we're doing a great job. Tesla has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure right over here, which tends to be bullish. As long as we don't lose 337-ish around that area, and then 332. As long as those two supports don't fail us, we favor upside. If we lose 332, we could be dipping down to fill this gap, as it depends on news. But just know this looks like it might be forming a nice accumulation, and then we have this imbalance up here, which may be pushing us higher. So tomorrow, if we do gap down, we could attempt to push later. Maybe Nvidia's earnings launches us. I don't know for sure, but I think that the chart, technically speaking, does look bullish. It looks like it wants to be going for that 362 area if we break 350. And if that breaks, we're going to be looking for 365 and 370. Now, as of right now, Tesla's range bound between 330 and 348-ish, around that area. We're most likely going to be trading sideways for some time, but in the future, if we do get that break above the upper resistance, I do favor us pushing for the 362 area. I think the chart favors upside, so we'll just have to see how it goes. So give this the time it needs. As far as Apple goes, we are on a bit of an uptrend. There might be a small dip coming though. As we have this uptrend, this trend line to be watching for. Apple might dip closer to about 227 before it tries to bounce again. And then Nvidia's earnings could affect this. So we'll see if Apple continues this uptrend. I do want to mention that with this trend that's forming, I'm not going to count this as a flag. It's more like it's just trying to fill this previous resistance and try to break past it. So it looks more bullish. We could be forming like a bullish wedge here. This might dip a bit before it tries to bounce, as the most likely possibility. NEO also has earnings tomorrow. We'll see if this launches closer to about 4.8 than 5, or if we get a rug pull, depends on earnings. We'll see what they say about their guidance. Netflix is very bullish because Netflix made the announcement that they're going to be launching a Christmas event. They're going to be streaming, I believe, a Texans game. It's going to be an NFL game on Christmas. And then Beyonce is going to be doing a performance during halftime. So it's very bullish, and we're still seeing buyers stepping in. I think Goldman Sachs or some analysts have come out, and they are giving them some very, very bullish ratings. I saw some news about that. They think that it has a price target of like 900 or 950. So it is remaining bullish. And I think that Nvidia's earnings could affect this as well. We're looking for a target of 875 to 880, as there's no sign of rejection quite yet. If we lose 860, we turn back down, but this chart is still favoring upside. As of right now, we do look more bullish. CELH, Celsius looks more bullish. As long as we don't lose 26.69, I think the chart is favoring 27.97 as the most likely possibility. And we could be pushing higher for even more upside, so I think that's going to be a good sign. Supermicro has a bullish divergence here. This is going to be greatly dictated by the big one, Nvidia. So we're forming a very, very nice flag right here. If we're bearish, we lose 25.6. We're looking for 23.78. As long as we hold support, it's possible that this gets a breakout thanks to Nvidia. Maybe it does. I can't promise that. But with the fact that they avoided getting delisted, this is now favoring 32 plus and potentially even higher levels like 36. So it looks bullish to me. Palantir looks pretty good. We're forming a nice cup right here. We need to hold 61.5 though. I want to see it hold that. We are at resistance at 63, so it's kind of sandwiched between these levels, 61.5 and 63. As long as you hold 61.5, though, it could continue to push for 65. But we'll see about that. It depends on Nvidia's earnings and factors like that. I would presume it's going to dip a bit to about the 62 area before it tries to bounce, and it could try to push higher. I would not like this to look like a head and shoulders. I would hope that this just continues to push. As long as it holds 61.5, we're in favor of bulls. But if we lose that, we will turn a little bit more bearish, and we will be dipping back down towards like 59. So we'll see if we hold 61.5, and we'll see what happens after that. So just keep that in mind. For Rivian, we're very flat right now. If we end up losing this support right here at this 9.9 area, we could be dipping back down towards 9.6. As long as we're above 10, I'm favoring a move back up to 10.3. I think that on the PPO, it's looking a little bit more bullish. So this might attempt to push for 10.35-ish tomorrow. And it might consolidate after that. So it's not that volatile. It's kind of flat. SoFi is looking bullish on the other hand. As long as you don't lose 13.8, I think that the share price is favoring upside. We could be on our way for about 14.5, then eventually higher levels like 14.8. So overall, we look a little bit more bullish, and we could be pushing for the higher 14s. With IWM, we look more bullish. If we break past the 231, we're looking for a push back up for this imbalance, taking us up towards 233.5. If we reject off 231, we could be dipping back down for 228. So overall, we're doing a good job. But I think that the 4 hour is looking more bullish, and the IWM is doing a good job at getting accumulated right over here. So the odds are favoring essentially pushing up for about 233.5. For AMD has this resistance to watch for at 139.5. If this breaks, we're going to be looking for essentially 142. If we reject here, we could be dipping back down for 137. This has a nice, sort of like an inverse head and shoulders, nice accumulation. So this depends on Nvidia's earnings. If Nvidia does poorly, okay, we could be looking for a rug pull back down towards 135 or below. If Nvidia does well, we could be looking for AMD to push for 142. This could also break out. I think it's going to be greatly dictated by Nvidia. So it has an inverse head and shoulders. Maybe it favors upside. We'll have to see about that. But just know that it's looking quite promising. ARM is also looking promising. I don't see any divergences, but I do see potential for it to try to break past the 20 EMA. If we're bullish after Nvidia's earnings, we're looking for 137 and then 141 as our targets. If we reject here, we're looking for 128. I think the chart's favoring upside, especially as we have a gap to fill, so it looks quite bullish. Coin is looking like it has an inverse head and shoulders as well. As long as we don't lose 307, this chart's favoring 330, 336 or so it looks more bullish. For Tesla's going to be I'm sorry, not Tesla. Sorry, guys. Amazon, excuse me. Amazon's looking pretty good here. If we break past 205, we're looking for essentially a test of previous support becoming resistance at 206.25. If it breaks that, we go all the way up towards 208 or higher. If we lose 203.8, we could be dipping, but this is favoring upside for the mid 206 area or above. Meta looks more bullish now. As long as Meta does not lose 555 and 560, I think that those are going to be the two main supports. I think the odds are favoring 564 as the most likely possibility. So I say 260, I meant 560. As long as 560 does not break, we're looking for 564 as the most likely resistance. So it does favor upside a little bit more. If that breaks, we squeeze even more. So Meta is going to be greatly dictated by Nvidia. Microsoft has a bullish divergence. As long as we don't lose 416, I think this favors 418 and 420, and it could even break past that to get to 426. I see potential in this. It depends on Nvidia's earnings, of course, so we'll see about that, but there is most definitely potential. For Google, as long as we don't lose 178, I think the odds are favoring 180 is our target, so I see some more upside potential in that. GameStop got a bounce as long as we don't lose to 26.6. So we dumped before we got bought back up. We could push back up to 28, but it's not that strong. AMC might try to bounce for 4.44, but it's very minor, not really doing much. GJT is very flat, might be retesting 28.97 or below before you see some kind of bounce. So look for a test of 28.97, then we'll see how it goes from there. For others out there, we have the VIX. The VIX is very flat right now. If we're bullish, the VIX wants to break past 17.86 to start filling this upper gap. If Nvidia gives the market a rug pull after earnings, then this could start breaking out. If it's the opposite and this gets a rejection, we do have this gap down here to fill. So if the VIX gets a rejection, loses 15.68, this might be dumping. That could be a bullish signal for the market, so I'll be watching that very carefully. The 10-year is down a bit. It's not really doing much. It's very flat. This could be a decent for the markets. The dollar is slowing down, which tends to be bullish for the markets as well, so we'll see what happens. With that being said, guys, tomorrow the market's most likely going to push higher, approaching Nvidia's earnings. But once Nvidia's earnings comes out after market close tomorrow, we will see what happens. Do we get some kind of rug pull or do we get a big run? It all depends on what Nvidia announces. What do they tell us about their chips? Are certain chips overheating or not? Are we going to get some good guidance from Nvidia? We'll just have to wait and see. So be patient, guys. Do what you have to do. I thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for your attention. I hope you guys have a great day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. Take care, guys, and I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens. Have a great day. Have a great rest of your night or whatever time it is. And peace out.